We talked on this very program about 24 hours ago about the importance of going out here in game four and throwing all them chips into the center of the table and doing what you had to do to put the stranglehold, so to speak, on the Houston Astros. And you had an opportunity to do that tonight. Uh, they came up small in every sense of the word, losing tonight 5-0 to the Astros and getting combined no hit in the World Series. Joining with, welcome back to the Phightins Final here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B, and joining me from the Patterson Ave Fanatics, Joe Marks. Joe, let's kind of let's address the elephant in the room. What went off? What went wrong tonight? Where was it, and why wasn't it fixed? And where do we go from here?
I think the better question is where did it not go right versus where did it go wrong? It went wrong in so many different ways from um the predictable nature that Aaron Nola was walking in to the fifth inning with a possible uh game altering situation and then putting Alvarado in a unwinnable situation with no outs and the bases loaded. It's from that to being no hit in your ballpark at the highest level on the biggest stage. It's embarrassing, but it's exposure. I mean, we've talked about it countless times on this show throughout the season of some of the inconsistencies and the aggravation that this offense can really drive in you. And yeah, they can drop 7 and they can make a team like the Astros look inferior. But tonight the arms race was won by that Houston Astros. But look, it's punch counter punch, and both teams are here for a reason. And I'm not gonna get um, super caught up in was this an important game? Absolutely. But I'm not going to get caught up in that the series might be over or that this damages anything other than count punch counter punch. No team has won back-to-back games. And so if you go by John Smoltz math, which I'm okay with when it favors the Phillies, that means the Phillies win in 7. So
Yeah, well, I listen. I agree. It's is it doom and gloom? No. Is it concerning? Yeah, but it's been concerning since April. So
mhm.
this is not new territory for Phillies fans.
Yeah.
Not new territory for me. God knows I've been through a lot of this. So, but let's address Aaron Nola. The third straight postseason start that he just did not measure up anywhere near to what we needed him to be. Tonight was a game, and again, I want to go back to it. This was it. This was. I thought this was possibly the most important game in recent Phillies memory. Tonight could have been an epic, historical pathway to a championship game. And Aaron Nola came out there with in that position, and he came up small. Was he horrible? No, but he wasn't dominant. And you mentioned the bases loaded situation that he left Alvarado in. Yeah, that was not good. Then Alvarado comes out and he hits a batter. I mean that, and Nola had nothing to do with that. So let's talk about Nola first. Through the first 4 innings, his damage was limited. He was letting people on, but it was with 2 outs. But he just didn't have that put away pitch. He didn't have that consistent put away pitch that he's had earlier in the postseason and towards the end of the regular season. Now that Nola has been expended for this series, because I mean, what, maybe Game 7, maybe on short notice. Um, where does Aaron Nola go from here, and where do we go with Aaron Nola from here?
Um, I think there is going to be a lot of question marks because um, you start to wonder with all the momentum that we brought going towards the end of the season to get into the playoffs, to get that wild card spot, did we expend so much energy that we went through this hot tear through the playoffs with the highs and the lows? And now, like the horses in the race, the Wheelers, the Nolas, they're running out of gas. Perhaps Nola looked good through 4. I agree with you that it wasn't. It was a good start. It was not this type of start we would have wanted. I mean, you
Mhm.
wanted 5 solid innings at minimum, and as soon as he hit the fifth inning and 9-1 and 2 came, I was watching the game with my buddy, and we both turned to each other and go, "This is going to be the inning. If he can get through this clean, we're good. If he can't, we're bad." And it was anything but clean. And I'll go back to the second inning, and Nola worked out of a jam, a first and third jam with one out,
Yeah.
and he worked out of that. But you can't keep putting yourself. I mean, Javier is a unique pitcher, all of on his own. But I will say this, Aaron Nola, there are a lot of question marks going forward, as far as his future, as far as whether he's the person. I mean, look, Cole Hamels was in the building tonight. And so Hollywood was in the building, and if we remember what he did in the World Series, it was utter dominance.
Yeah.
And I've compared Aaron Nola a couple different times to Hollywood. And I'm gonna retract those statements because he doesn't even have close to the stuff as Aaron Nola. I mean, as Cole Hamels. This is a big question mark going forward for the Phillies.
But you know who's not a big question mark going for the Phillies? It's our boy Big Al. Al, what's going on? Welcome to the party. I know. I wish we could assemble here under better circumstances.
I
Phillies.
apologize about my tardiness. Apparently, my TV ran out of hits, so I had to throw it out and go get a new one. So hopefully, it'll be better for tomorrow. Because my TV couldn't muster up any hits tonight when I was watching the Phillies game. I just it's deflating. It's a kick in the teeth. I talked yesterday about how L's taste like vinegar and shit mixed together, and I was also trying to wash my mouth out. So, I compared last night. I said it's like that scene in Rocky at the end where they're going blow to blow, and then is it the part where you start adding on more blows, or is it going back and forth? And as of right now, it's a back and forth little tango they got going on, and ultimately, um, the only thing you can take from this, I'm not much for moral victories, but I'm a momentum guy. I was hoping maybe they can not get the no hitter, take that little solace with it, maybe get a couple hits in, score a run, something, just so they wouldn't have to go, break stride. I mean, they're averaging 7 runs at home in the postseason. I mean, and then you get zero. So let's just hope that, as we always say in baseball, you can lose by 100 runs or 1 run, and it's still the same L. So let's hope that this is just something that we can move on from. Take, as we said, as we hoped. I kind of look at this at game two. We won game one. We got super excited. We think if we can win two in Houston, this would be amazing. Didn't happen, but we were happy with the split. Now, we would be happy with taking 2 or 3 in South Philly, because now no matter what, we're going back to Houston. So we got to put the bitch to bed in Texas.
Yeah, no, I agree, Al. But let's kind of catch you up with what we've been talking about. I'm going to ask you this question. I asked Joe Marks to start the show off with it, and I'm going to ask it to you too. What went wrong? Where did it go off the rails, and how did we find ourselves on the short end of a 5-0 combined no hitter loss in the World Series? How does that happen to a team that's got the mojo
Well,
and the lightning that the Phillies do, and they come out at home with 46,026 people in their corner, and they can't get anything going? How did it happen?
what went wrong is I think the easier question is what went right, and the answer is nothing. I mean, Nola was doing well up until the fifth inning. I think I heard Joey was coming on. He got himself out of jam, which is, that's what you need a good pitcher to do, as much as mow down pitchers. But at the same time, nothing else really went right. If you look at Javier, just the way he was throwing, things were elevated in the right. And this team, I say it all the time: if you want to beat the Phillies, just if you can pinpoint it in that top end of the strike zone and right above the strike zone, they're going to go fishing. They'll go fishing all day long. I mean, Bryce Harper is one of the biggest yeah, problems with that. That high heat, they love it. They can't get enough of it, and they're just swinging right underneath it, and it plays right into the hands of the pitcher. And they all went and they all saw it, and I think each pitcher came out and did the same thing, almost the same exact thing. There wasn't really much deviation from the game plan, and the frustration began to set in. You saw, let's be honest, nobody's going to be talking about the Richter scale after compared to last night to this one. So they did what they were supposed to. They took the crowd out of it. They took us out of it. They took the Phillies out of it. The game was pretty much, after one run, was pretty much in their hands, and they just kept piling on. But and like I said, you just have to have that short memory, or just forget it. Don't even have the memory of it. Just forget it. If anything, just if it's going to do anything for you, just make you angry. Go out there and Verlander does not scare me. I don't know if it's his record, if it's what we saw from him in game one. We have to hope Wheeler is a much better pitcher than we saw with him last time. But the injury thing is where that's where I'm nervous, is Wheeler's injury, because if he isn't on his game, he throws it right down Broadway, and it's everything these guys love. Any baseball player would love to see. So,
yeah, no, and I'm gonna get into the pitching matchups going forward here in a second, but let's get back to tonight. Christian Javier for the Astros struck out 9. We made him look like Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver, and Steve Carlton all rolled up into one. Philly struck out in total 14 times tonight. That plate discipline that we were talking about that was present over the last few games completely went out the window tonight. They were swinging at everything, as you said. I mean, a lot.
They were trying to hit home runs. That's what they were trying to do. They thought maybe one home run would change the course, the momentum, take the air out of the Houston's bench. And the problem with that is you live by the home run, you die by the home run, and that's what happened last night. They lived by it. Tonight, they absolutely died by it.
And it's a common story all season with the Phillies. It's been what this thing has been all year long. That's why I told Joe, I'm like, I'm not all that frustrated about it, because it's pretty much what's the story of the year so far.
Well, I mean, I think that where the frustration probably would set in more than anything for anybody would be the fact that they haven't really done that this much during the postseason. This team has been pretty much locked in. I mean, plate discipline at times has been, I would say, questionable occasionally, but for the most part, it's been pretty consistent. Last night, that's where it was. Like, they weren't really trying to hit home runs last night. They were just coming off their bat that way. And that's the problem. When you're trying to get the home run, you're not going to get it. You know what I mean? But when it's there and you take your pitch, and especially guys like who are tipping their pitches, it's easier to take. They just needed to put back to ball. Put back to ball. I mean, actually, if you watch the 9th inning again, if that happened more in the 6th or 7th inning, they might have got that hit. They might have not had that no-hitter on their back. But they waited too long for that.
I wanted to add into what you were saying about bat to ball, because there was a report that a mid-game stat that came out during Javier's pitching. I think it was around the 5th or 6th inning, that like the Phillies batters up to that point made contact with 39 of his fastballs, but 24 of them were foul balls. He's just getting them, like you said, in that sweet spot where the batter's gonna swing, because it just looks so enticing. But the way that their bat is, and but maybe both you and Matty B could talk about this a little bit more, is that Kevin Long, the pitching coach for the Phillies, said, you gotta move your top hand up. I was watching the game with my buddy who also played baseball, and I said, can you only move that top hand and move your zone as the batter up only so high until it's to a point where it does you no good to swing at the ball at any point?
I don't know. Ask Hunter Pence that one. He's the one who seemed to defy that logic.
Yeah. I mean, because it got to me that, if he's putting it inches above our bat, and that's the reason why we kept doing pop-ups and pop-outs and foul balls and all of this, then as the batter, is it safer to lay off and just hope that the ump bails you out? Or is it just better to raise your, raise your stance and put the top hand over and just hope that your zone can kind of level out to that pitcher zone, because we all know that baseball is a game of mid game adjustments, mid at bat adjustments. And I don't know if I saw that tonight. When that stat came across, it just kind of showed me and told me that there was no mid game, mid bat adjustments.
Yeah. So here now, not to get too technical about it, not to get into the mechanics of hitting. I just think it's more of like we McCullers was tipping last night. Well, the Phillies have been tipping all season. Their batters, the pitchers in the major leagues know, and these pitching coaches, they know how to attack the Phillies hitters. And it you throw junk away, and then if you get a good bite on that curveball, you get a good bite on that sinker, they're going to strike out because they're going to be swinging in the dirt. What the Phillies rely on is pitchers missing their spots. So they rely on them missing that edge or that corner, and then they hang something, and then the Phillies hit home runs. As Al said, we live by the home run. So as far as to get into that top hand technicality of it all, I don't even think it has to go that deep. I just think it's the nature of this team. They're built to hit home runs, and that's how they're gonna live and die by that.
Yeah, and as Matt said, not to get too technical, I mean, listen, when the ball has that high rising movement, it's coming up into the top tier, the top third of the strike zone, and even to foul ball high foul ball territory. Um, and it can be very enticing because the way that rises, it can be more enticing than a ball that drops off because it stays at it changes your eye level, as they say. But the problem, what you're talking about is when they say choking up on the bat, you're talking about a half an inch, something like that. Because what you're doing at that point is you're making a more small compact swing, allowing allowing you to have more bat to ball. Yeah, and what they were doing is he was throwing it up high enough that if the contact was made, it was just hitting off the bottom of the ball, then setting the ball sky high, making it an easy play. If that's why you didn't see, not that there was many chances for double plays or anything like that, but that's why you didn't see too many things like too many balls just being hit to second or third or shortstop for those easy outs. That's why they were striking out or popping out. And like Matt said, it's not something new. How many times have I said on the Phightins final, Matt, that if you want to make the Phillies pitch and you have control and command of your pitches, throw the high heat. Just throw
I
that
mean,
high heat, high inside, man. They
yeah,
can't lay off of it. And
John
I'm
Smoltz,
talking Harper, Hoskins,
yeah.
Romuto, Castellanos, those guys, Schwarber. That top five, they can live in that world all day. Now, the problem with that is you got to live. You live. It's like anything. If you live in a zone, you got to be on your game because you throw too high, you're gonna get balls. And the problem is, if you throw it too much, your strike zone starts to shrink on top of it.
Yeah, and John Smoltz gave a tutorial on that earlier in the game with Harper. When Harper got kind of behind in the count, he took a high fastball that was in the zone. It was called a strike, and then Javier just elevated the high fastball just a little bit more out of the zone, and Harper swung because Harper can't hang. He cannot lay off those high fastballs, and that's exactly what these pitchers do to the Phillies hitters, and they've been doing it all season.
So will that postscript what Verlander does tomorrow night?
I don't know if Verlander's going to be able to live with that kind of velocity. He's more of a location pitcher than a velocity pitcher. So I think, as Al said, Verlander's not Verlander of 3 years ago. He's
Right.
hittable now. He's worldly now. The
Mhm.
problem, and as I said, let's get into the pitching here in a second. But Walter brings up a good point. Second time the Phillies got combined no hit this year. Gentlemen, we were together the first time that happened
Yep.
back in April. It was during the draft party when the Mets did it to the Phillies. So thanks for bringing that up, Walter. I didn't need to remember that, but
Yeah, Walt.
yeah, just kind of like kick us when we're down.
Throw some
Way
salt
to
in the
be
wound.
way to be the wet blanket, Walter.
Nah,
Yeah,
Walt's the greatest. But
brings back memories of drafting the Kobe Dean. God, man, Walter, what are you trying to do to me, man?
Ah,
so to answer your question, Joe, yes, this gives him an idea, but I go along with Matt. He's more of that finesse pitcher than he's going to be over a beat you with your face. I mean, not that he can't. Don't get me wrong. And I don't know if anybody took notice to this, but there's a pre-World Series interview. I don't know if it's right before Game 1 or I forget when they said it, but they asked Verlander, how do you how are you doing this at 39 years old? I'm like, man, I'm 39. Justin Verlander's 39 years old. I'm 39 years old. God damn it! Why couldn't I have Kate Upton?
Choices.
No
Yeah,
reason not to.
yeah, right. But he said this. He goes, well, what I've been doing is I've been taking care of myself better. I've been sleeping a lot more. Because then he said stuff about HGH and all that stuff, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. He's like, because it's a natural way of producing, that in your system, and I'm like, we need to drug test this motherfucker right now. like, who says that? You just don't use certain words in an interview, even if that's even if it's 100% scientifically true. You just don't say those things.
No,
But
don't.
but like I said, yeah, Joey, to answer your question, it gives him a blueprint. But I also hope Kevin Long and the Phillies batting will change it up and say, listen, if he's throwing up there, if this is what he's doing, if he's trying to do his best Christian Javier impression, this is how we have to beat him.
Right.
And Javier has a lot more movement on his ball too.
He did.
And
He had
that,
much more. He had a lot more velocity too. The guy was throwing
yeah.
hot the entire game, and you got to give it credit to him. Let's talk a little bit about the pitching matchup going forward tonight. As I said, just so many opportunities missed tonight. Now it brings up in my mind a big question about this rotation moving forward through the rest of the series. Yeah, we're going to go ahead with Wheeler tomorrow. I that's what I think. That's what I heard. And then after that, what the hell are we doing? I mean, is it bullpen games for 6 and 7? Is that what the Phillies are selling us right now?
I mean, I don't know. Is it 100% Wheeler? I mean, it is.
I have
is
not
Syndergaard is
heard.
still listed.
Yeah,
I,
Syndergaard is
I
still
wonder. I
listed.
mean, if they won, maybe that was the plan. Like, if they win tonight, they would have had Wheeler come in tomorrow. But now that they didn't win, and they're definitely going back to Houston, giving Wheeler another day's rest isn't the worst, or I guess 2 days rest isn't the worst case scenario, especially if he's injured. And
Burning your bullpen to give them a day off, so
well,
that they
here's the
would.
thing: is if you get 4 out of Noah, say,
Hmm,
Sam Matt, you got out of you got out of Nola. I mean, Syndergaard.
yeah,
You go Syndergaard gives you 4, you got the same amount of Nola.
yeah.
And the fact is, the other guys can rest. You still haven't used Sir Anthony in a week almost. You kind of, I don't know if you burnt through
Alvarado.
Alvarado or not. I mean, I'm sure if he had to, he had to. Yeah, Dave. As far as we know, it's still Thor. I have a feeling that's where it's going to go.
Yeah,
Just if they won tonight, it probably would have been Wheeler.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to look at games 6 and 7 at this point. You really do. I know we don't want to live in that world, but you got to look at. We're not going to go with Syndergaard in 6 and Ranger in 7. I mean, that's
No.
not going to happen, right? I mean,
No, I mean maybe you take Ranger. I mean, is Ranger going to be the same as Ranger at home as he is going to be in Houston? That's another question on its own. But if right now anybody I would like to pitch right now, I think Ranger right now is I'm the most confident in pitching wise. And in the Phillies rotation, who would have thought in the World Series those were the words I've been using. But like I said, as I think at this point, since they did lose tonight, you have to go Noah. If you can get 4 solid innings out of him, and doesn't let up more than 1 or 2 runs, and this team can get back to its hitting ways in South Philly as it has all postseason long, and doesn't decide to go on some drought now, um, then I think it's your best bet. I think it's your best bet. You can still use your Nick Nelsons of the world. You can use your I mean, Hand pitched a little. He wasn't too bad tonight. I mean, these guys can go again. It's not like nobody can go again. Robertson are probably the one I wouldn't go again with because he's just been too inconsistent, and I think fatigue is a major problem for him right now. But I think you go with that. You try to fight back, have an energized crowd, try to take this win, have 2 out of 3 out of South Philly. Then you can go to Houston for Game 6, allow Wheeler to rest, and hopefully have a 90% Wheeler. I'll take 90% Wheeler at this point because
You know,
who's
with
pitching for them tomorrow? I mean,
Verlander.
not tomorrow. Game 6, it would be Valdez probably.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, with that regard of like having Thor and Verlander, if the offense, and we talked about it earlier, if the offense can get to Verlander like they did once before, then it makes life a little easier for Thor, which then makes it easier to get through 4 innings. I mean, tonight, you know, if you just kind of uh, put the game down in a microscope for just the first 4 innings, you would think that just they called it a pitcher's duel, and I think that was the magic jinx, because the minute that they called it a pitching duel, then that's when the wheels started to fall off. And honestly, if you took that microcosm of those first 4 innings, you would say Nola and the pitching staff was good, on both the Astros and the Phillies, in fact. Um, if you get a I'm with you, Al. If you get a performance from Thor that rivals what he did the last time he went out there, because I think he only had
3.
one earned run.
Yeah.
So if you get that same kind of performance, you have a great chance of winning this game.
And don't forget, he is accustomed to World Series games. Hasn't it's not like he hasn't been here before. He is even further off his Tommy John surgery. We
Mm.
saw his velocity took a tick up in the DS compared to what we saw at the end of the season. So if everything continues to trend in the upward direction, I mean, he could, and he's not a overpowering pitcher like he used to. If he can keep, 1 to 2 pitch outs, and you can keep him in a low pitch count, I think four is reasonable, and 5 could be cherry on top.
Yeah, he also faced the Astros this year when he was with the Angels, and he pitched well. He went 6. So,
Hmm.
you know, I don't know what other option you have. You can't go Wheeler. You really can't. You can't do that to the rotation. You can't do that to the team at this juncture of the World Series unless you're going to move Eflin out of the bullpen and put him back in the rotation. But I mean, we ain't going to do that. So, or maybe they do. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to
Oh,
see what
Mel
they do
Gibson will
going
come
forward.
in.
I don't think you make Eflin. I think you give Eflin maybe 2 innings with Nelson, if that's the necessary thing tomorrow, depending on how Thor
Well,
struggles or thrives.
I think it's also a reason why you didn't see anybody go more than 1 inning today.
Yeah,
Not that they do that normally in the World Series,
yeah.
but I think that's why you didn't see Eflin go 2 innings, or what's his name? I always get his name wrong.
Bellotti,
Bellotti.
Bellotti.
He didn't go more than 1 inning. And I know that's kind of normal for them anyway, but I think that's one of the major reasons, knowing that they're probably going to need them tomorrow, maybe to go 1 or 2.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the bullpen and one particular piece of that bullpen, Jose Alvarado. Comes in, and as Joe Marks said earlier in the show, a pretty unwinnable situation. Bases loaded, nobody out in the 5th. But then he goes ahead and he plunks a batter to drive in a run, and essentially sent them around the base paths in the tune of 5 runs. I know they weren't all attuned to Nola, but
Mhm.
Al, how disheartening was it for you to watch one of the workhorses, the guy that really, in my opinion, has turned is the linchpin into why this bullpen has turned their season around after he came back from the minors this summer, just kind of just revert back to his old ways? I mean, how concerning was that for you to see?
I mean, listen, yeah, it sucked. It's concerning. It was a turning point. But as they said in the telecast, it's a no-win situation. I mean, if he gets the guy to sky the ball out, it's still going to score a run. Unfortunately, when you plunk a player and you put a guy on base, score a run, there's still no outs. That's the part where it stings the most. At least if he skied one out, you're sacrificing a run for an out. Um, and you had the double play set. It just listen. He got in at a bad juncture, and it was just not ideal. And no pitcher is going to. I don't care who you are. Ice water running through your veins. That is a bad situation. You have zero room for error in any situation. That means you're going to probably error more because that's all you're thinking about. I got to throw the stuff where the guy's not going to hit it well, but not I can't just throw balls and the other thing is I kind of question the only reason I would question Everon. Now listen, he's been just locked in, lights out, but he also has a tendency to throw a little wildly. And when you have your bases loaded, I kind of question that, but I also don't question the fact that you put your best pitcher in to try to I would use the term minimize the damage. I think they were trying to come out of there maybe with 1 or 2 runs at most versus the 5 that they got. And you can there's nobody you can blame in this way. I mean, do you really get mad that you didn't pull Nola out earlier when there was still a base open? I mean, what's the difference there?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Not much to me. So I mean, it's disheartening. It was deflating. And it was definitely the point of the game where you kind of felt shot in the foot because then you saw the rest of the team come up to bat and just trying to kill the ball, trying to big swing their way into something instead of just playing the small ball. Because think about it, the small ball's what got them there towards the end. It wasn't all home runs. Not that we haven't had a lot. Don't get me wrong. But there was points there was games they didn't score a 1 home run. They did a lot of small ball and timely hitting. I mean, Gene Segura has been kind of in a cold streak right now, and I mean, I think I said on the telecast it was like 4 for his last 25 or something like that. And
I am highly disappointed at him. I
listen,
really am.
this is baseball. I mean, you can't be. Listen, nobody's more disappointed in Gene Segura than Gene Segura.
Yeah.
Listen, we just have to hope that coming out of this, that this isn't a tale of like, all right, they're hot, like the heat is off,
Right.
like somebody turned the oven off and it's cold now, and then we're gonna be eating cold soup
Right.
for a while because I don't think I don't think that's it. I don't think it's it. I think they got punched in the mouth. They didn't like to taste that L, and they're going to make sure they're not tasting it tomorrow because they know if they go into Houston, and they have to win both games in Houston, this becomes a very really hard mountain to climb.
So the Phillies are entering uncharted territory so far in the postseason. They've not had this situation where they're going to have to go back on the road in order to win a series. And tomorrow, Game 5, 8 o'clock start at the bank. And right now, Noah Syndergaard is the listed pitcher. He'll be opposed by Justin Verlander. Let's go around the horn real quick. Some parting shots, some final comments or thoughts. Start with Joe Marks. Joe, you can say whatever you want, but this is do or die time right now. I mean, you got to believe that this has got to be another all chips in the center of the table type moment for the Phillies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this is a point now. I said that the Ranger game last night kind of set up a tone, a comfortable tone, a little bit more of a comfortable tone for the Phillies, but you had to respond tonight in order to create that what we deemed as the stranglehold, and it didn't happen. And now we're in a situation where now it's a 3-game series and you have to look at things as it is. Houston is not a pushover. We already knew that, but neither are we. And so for me, I feel like we come out because it's our home turf. We come out and we give it one more push, both as fans and as that team. That team, they're gonna leave that park tonight with a bitter taste in their mouth. Just like that shit in vinegar, like Al said earlier. But they're gonna wash it out, they're gonna rinse it out, they're gonna look at the footage, they're gonna rally back, and then they're gonna sit there and go, okay, look, it's not over. It's just a 3-game series. That's all it is.
I mean,
And
you're
so,
still not behind. I mean, that's the one solace you can take from it. You're
yeah,
just tied now.
yeah.
It's a whole new series now. It's a 3-game series now. Whoever wins the next 2 wins.
And you have the benefit of having this one, at least the first one out of that 3-game series at your house. So you make sure that you take that to put some pressure back on Houston. Within each counterpunch, there has to be that retaliation. Has to be tomorrow, has to be the Phillies' retaliation.
Uh,
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean, yeah,
in the Phillies, hang on, in the
yeah, go ahead,
Phillies,
man.
two or in all their 2 World Series winning seasons, they've never clinched on the road. So this would be a first for Phillies. So
Hmm.
Listen, I'll clench anywhere. My butt cheeks are clenched right now. I mean, it's and I kind of go along with Joe. I hope they don't put more pressure on themselves that they have to. They just have to know that this game is over. You're 2-2 in a series. You go in, you go back to playing the game that you know how to play. Put bat to ball, keep it going, moving forward, and do what you do best, and be those energy sucking vampires, as I called them yesterday. Because here's the one thing is, and I don't know why, but I feel so much more comfortable when it's not one of our two starting guys. I think Noah will just thrive just like Ranger did if he can come out and blank him out 1, 2, 3 in that first inning and not make anything difficult for us and give them as the Houston Astros anything to work with. You know what I mean? And just if his confidence is up, then he gets to go out there and this crowd will let him feed off of that, and then hopefully that will translate over to the offense and runs galore again, and then we go to Houston and I feel better again.
By the way, Matt, don't be the wet blanket. Last time I watched the World Series, well, I mean, before we won in '08, but the last time that they tried to clinch a World Series championship on the road, Joe Carter hit a game-winning home run. So don't do that. Well, we're
Well,
not going to think that way.
thanks a lot for bringing that back up. I mean, yeah,
We're not going to think that way. You're the
I
one
came
that's
on here to
been
feel
there.
better. You guys just kicked me in the
Easy.
teeth a couple
Well,
times.
listen, he's the
you
one
and
that
Walter
brings
working
up.
together, man.
No, you're the one that brings up that we haven't clinched a World Series on the road.
I mean
No,
that we're due. We're
right,
due to do it.
exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm not doing that. But
Listen,
here's
we've only
my
had 2 in the years we've been there, so I guess that's not a huge sample. A huge sample to deal with.
So this is my final thought. You guys mentioned it earlier in the show. Noah Syndergaard does have World Series pedigree. Kyle Schwarber has World Series pedigree. Rob Thompson has World Series pedigree. It's time for that pedigree to come out inside of that clubhouse right now because this is adversity, but it's not adversity like being down 3-0 to the Indians in 2016, like Schwarber and the Cubs were. That's not adversity, right? That's not the type of adversity they're facing. And this is where the leadership in this team with these younger players who have never been in this position, you're going to need players like Schwarber, Thompson, and Syndergaard to be like, all right, boys, we gotta get our heads back into this and start playing like we know how to play, not like we want to win the game on one swing. I agree with everybody here. I'm it's doom and gloom, but it's not over. It's not over by a long shot. And but
series.
tomorrow night is very important. It's very, very important. We got to go out there and we got to do everything we can to at least fight our way into this game. I never like going out in games where you get shut out, and God forbid, I hate it when you get no hit. So we got
happened since 1956, and the Yankees, perfect game. So I mean, this is the thing: is you flush it, you move on, you carry on what you've done in the past and throughout this playoffs to be successful. And my feeling is that this team I mean, people have said it on this show before, and I'll say it again: we're resilient, and regardless of however things may appear, it's still this is a fight, and all the national pundits were wrong saying that this was just going to be Houston in 5 or Houston in 6 and the Phillies had no chance. No, this is a heavyweight freaking bout, man. So, knuckle up and get ready for a fight.
I agree with you, and the one thing about the flushing scenario, don't just flush it. You flush it and watch that turd go down the toilet, because you got to remember why that you don't let that happen to you again.
Right.
But you don't let it hold you down. So that's why I say you watch that turd go down the toilet and make sure it never comes back up.
I agree. And for those of you who are tuned in tonight, thank you. Let's kind of pay some bills here on the program as we do. Don't forget, I know we were still expecting a big party here in town, so keep this guy's number handy, Dave Cherry, for all your workman's compensation, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or criminal law questions. 610-565-0300. Let Dave know that EOP and the Phightins Final sent you over there to speak with him.
You didn't injure yourself, Al, when you got rid of that television, right? You didn't.
No, I might have hit a cat though.
Okay, all right.
Don't forget Philly Sports Trip tomorrow night. They're in Houston at the Catch the Eagles, and don't forget all the great stuff they got coming up: Flyers trips, Sixers trips, and Philly spring training in 2023. But we're not quite there yet, so don't give those guys a call. Go over there and check out what they have to offer. You will not regret it. And then don't forget Dolan's Bar in Delco. Yeah, I guess Game 6 might be a reality. So Mickey Morandini, you might have an opportunity.
Game 6 is a reality, no matter what happens. Now, I guess if you want to look one rainbow, one shining guiding light in this situation is you get to hang out with Mickey Morandini on Friday. Well, I guess no. I guess this
Saturday.
will be on Saturday. Yeah, so I'll make sure that doesn't change, but I'll let you guys. If there's anything changes, but as of right now, he's slated to be at Dolan's.
So head over to Dolan's this weekend. Definitely the place to be if you want to check out the Phillies game with some like-minded friends and like-minded people. Gentlemen, it is always a pleasure for you guys to come on here and talk it up with me. For Joe Marks of the Patterson Fanatics and Big Al of EOP Live and EOP, I am Matty B, and we will talk again tomorrow. It is not over yet, folks. Keep your heads up. All right, we got a lot of more baseball to play. Until we talk again, you guys take care.
Let's go.